If not, I would like to do India again and try to finish something that I start.
Nelson, we wish you every possible success, a speedy recovery. Thanks for talking to us. And now from one great Brazilian champion to another, Ayrton Senna in pole position for the 61st time in his amazing career. And that, believe it or not, is 28 more pole positions than any other driver in history. But the future of this race may depend on whether or not Ayrton can keep both Patrese and Mansell behind him in that first hairpin corner. Second on the grid, Riccardo Patrese, who is also, of course, second in the World Championship so far. This will be the Italian's 231st Grand Prix, and he's already been on the victory podium 5 times this season, with no fewer than 4 second places. Can he go one better this afternoon? Third on the grid, very unusually, because this is the first time that Nigel Mansell has not been on pole position this season. The Englishman who's won 5 of the 6 races. He was the fastest man on the track yesterday and again this morning. He's looking for that 6th win of the season, and as Jackie Stewart knows, he's also trying to become the best British driver ever by equaling Jackie's 27 victories. Fourth on the grid, Gerhard Berger in the second McLaren. Gerhard is, of course, the most successful Austrian driver since Niki Lauda. And Gerhard has finished in the top 4 in the World Championship 3 times. But he's only finished in the points here once in 6 attempts. This young man, Michael Schumacher, has been the sensation of the season so far. And he's maintained his promise here on his first visit to Canada. He has not started a race this season from anywhere lower than the 3rd row of the grid. He has a 2nd, 2 thirds and 2 fourth placings to his credit. He lies 3rd in the World Championship, and he's only driven in 12 Grand Prix. Johnny Herbert hasn't ever qualified for the Canadian Grand Prix until this weekend. Yet here Johnny sits 6th on the grid, his best ever practice performance. It's a tribute to Johnny's skill and, of course, the determination of Peter Collins and Peter Wright to put the Lotus team back where they belong on the victory podium. Good luck, Johnny. Martin Brundle is one of the fittest and most committed drivers on the circuit. And he's determined to show the form in Formula One that won him the World Championship in sports cars for Jaguar. Both Martin and Michael Schumacher are capable of surprising the Williams and the McLarens this afternoon. This is a man with a lot to do. John Alesi, the Frenchman. He, of course, has a huge task of trying to bring Ferrari back to glory, back to their fame and success. He is often compared, of course, to Gilles Villeneuve. And he's taken this car, number 27, into the points twice already this season, but he's yet to finish a Canadian Grand Prix. This is his Italian teammate Ivan Capelli, who finished 5th here for March in 1988. He joined Ferrari at the end of last season and scored his first points for them in Brazil. Ivan is a spirited driver who's desperate to succeed and knows how much it means to the Italian public. This is Finland's Mika Hakkinen. He jumped straight into Formula 1 from Formula 3, with a lot of help, I think, from Keke Rosberg. He's more than justified Lotus's faith in him. He scored his first point of the season in Mexico, and he must be very pleased with his practice performance here. And so, Brian and Jackie, that's the grid. Back to you.
All right, Barry, outstanding. Somewhat of a tradition here on CBC. Barry Gill's walk down the grid. You see it nowhere else in Formula One racing. Jackie Stewart, I said it was a bright sunny afternoon and we'd have a dry track, but as you just pointed out to me as I look to the west, some rather ominous clouds moving into the western sections of the city. But right now, no rain. The cars will have 1 lap, and then, of course, they will come around and await the green light to start 1992 Grand Prix Mulsanne. As the cars prepare to head out on the practice lap, Jackie, why don't you bring us up to date on the fuel story? Nigel Mansell will have something like $30,000 worth of fuel on board his Williams this afternoon.
I'm surrounded by power. Fuel is the story. For the last 18 months, chemicals have been the big story in Grand Prix racing. These multinational corporations have been making special fuel for those racing cars. Some of these companies bring up to 4 different fuels to every Grand Prix. The cost is astronomical. They say anything between about $30 to $50 or $60 a litre. But that kind of advantage is one of power. About 50 to 60 horsepower advantage by using this special fuel. That gives you about 1.5 seconds a lap. But there's been complications. There's been a lot of situations where there's been industrial espionage involved. But more than anything else, I suppose it's a question of cost. With all of the testing they do for this race, then for the qualifying this weekend, and then for the racing, if I were to drive into one of those pits and say, fill my cars up for the weekend, for our weekend drives, you know how much it would be? Conservatively, about $50,000. Quite a lot of money to ask for any Scotsman for his weekend motoring.
As we look down on Ile Notre Dame, the Circuit Villeneuve, the cars now at the east end of the track. You're on board. That is the Ferrari of Jean Alesi. The Ferraris are well back in the field. The race conditions for today's race, the track temperature very, very warm, but the air temperature rather pleasant. Now, Jackie Stewart, as we come up to the start-finish area, if we can get back to the onboard camera with the cars, we take a look at some other statistics. But as we go back to the cars, it is very, very important to watch what happens at the start of the race here in Montreal. Ayrton Senna has the pole position, but he told you yesterday the car that gets into the first sharp right-hand corner after the start-finish area should dominate this race.
I think it could well be a battle going in there, Brian, and in fact the Williams cars that you're looking at right now, and that's the car of Nigel Mansell that we're panning with, these two Williams cars have a traction control system on the cars. If they really boot it and that traction control works to the best of its ability, they could easily pass Ayrton Senna before the first cluster of corners, and that of course could change the whole picture of the motor race.
As the cars line up on the grid, they'll come to a complete stop. Await the green light. Ayrton Senna and Riccardo Patrese on row number 1. Mansell and Berger row 2. Schumacher and Herbert row 3. Brundle and Alesi row 4. Capelli and Hakkinen row number 5. Watch the right of your screen. Car number 1, the pole sitter Ayrton Senna. On the left of your screen, Riccardo Patrese. Go back to row number 2, the right side of your screen. That is Nigel Mansell. Watch Mansell and Patrese start to break away as soon as we get the green light.
The green light will appear on the left-hand side of your screen where you see the image now. When the red light comes on, that would be between 4 and 7 seconds before the green light is shown.
It's a right-left combination, then a sharp right turn. The car leading through the sharp right turn should have the advantage. We're underway in Montreal. And through the first corner, look at Nigel Mansell. Mansell tries to come up but cannot catch Ayrton Senna. Mansell has moved ahead of Riccardo Patrese. Through turn number 1, it is Senna, Mansell, Patrese, and Gerhard Berger. A tremendous start. You talked about that traction starting as they now go down the north side of Ile Notre Dame. Nigel Mansell and Riccardo Patrese all over the pole sitter and defending world champion Ayrton Senna.
You're going to see the potential now of Nigel Mansell really running a semi-kamikaze effort to get past Ayrton Senna before Senna settles down to a rhythm. And Nigel Mansell, of course, is a very aggressive driver. He's going to be trying to do that. Keep in mind, on the other hand, that Senna himself is a cool character and well used. One of the cars already being pushed off. It's a Fond Metal car, one of the Italian team cars, and there Mansell tucked in but not close enough at this point. Patrese's dropped back a little bit, then comes up Berger. Very interesting as they go into that corner. You can see Berger's hounding Patrese.
That was the Fond Metal Ford of Gabriele Tarquini that is out of the race. Down towards the start-finish area, Ayrton Senna, Nigel Mansell, Riccardo Patrese, Gerhard Berger, and the Benetton Ford of the brilliant German Michael Schumacher. Senna will take the lead, completing lap number 1 through the start-finish area. Comes the McLaren Honda of Ayrton Senna. All over Senna now is Nigel Mansell. Senna, Mansell, Patrese, Berger, and Schumacher, the top 4 after the first lap here in Montreal.
Very clean start, no heroics in the first cluster of corners, which I might have expected, particularly in the midfield. Senna is holding a fairly comfortable lead at the present time. Nigel catching him slightly there. Nigel's not going to want him to get away very hard. Here we see a replay of the start, and look at the start there. Nigel Mansell coming through between his teammate and Senna. Not enough room on the outside to get through. He wisely tucked in behind Senna.
Ayrton Senna with 34 career victories. It's interesting, he's been on the pole here in Montreal twice before, Jack, in 1988 and again in 1990. He won this race both those years, so again, he is the pole sitter in 1992. As we prepare to complete the second lap in this Grand Prix Mulsanne 1992, let me run down the top 10. It's Ayrton Senna, followed by Mansell, Patrese, Berger, Schumacher, Brundle, Herbert for Lotus, Hakkinen, Alesi, the top Ferrari is running 9th, Wendlinger in the number 10 position, and the other Ferrari of Ivan Capelli is running in the number 11 position. As they come through the start-finish area to complete the second lap, Jackie Stewart, a tough race course to pass on.
Yes, but they're clustering up a little well now. It's getting a little tighter. It's very interesting to see that Senna's leading there, so it's Honda, then Renault, then Ford. An amazing cluster of cars, and look how tight they're coming together there. The performance here of the front group, you could almost say that Senna certainly is not taking any big advantage, and he's making small errors of judgment, very small in some parts of the circuit, that are being eaten up by Mansell in other parts. It's not unusual for a racing car to work in one section of the track and then having a slight deficit in another. Senna, however, is still considered, I think, by all of the people in pit lane to be the #1 driver at this time in the world, and I think he knows how to set his pace very comfortably. But what a traffic jam behind. Anything could happen there.
This has been an outstanding start to this race. In all the years we've been in Montreal, I believe this is our 9th, Jackie. I have never seen such a close bunch up at the beginning of this race. That's the east end of Ile Notre Dame, Circuit Villeneuve, as they will now come back down, approaching the start-finish area. Your leader is Ayrton Senna, who won 2 weeks ago in Monte Carlo after Nigel Mansell, who's running second, was forced out with a rear axle problem. He came back on. The Venturi's in a bit of trouble. Mansell came back on in Monte Carlo to make a valiant run, but Monte Carlo, like Montreal, a tough course to pass on. Ayrton Senna, Nigel Mansell, Patrese, Berger, Schumacher, and Brundle down through the start-finish area to complete lap number 3.
The characteristics of the racing cars, as I said, are different from one part of the track to the other, but Schumacher is hounding right now the McLaren there of Berger, Schumacher and Brundle, and we see one of the incidents that took place at the east end of the circuit there. 2 cars of the same team destroying one of their front wings. Absolutely.
Those are the 2 Lamborghinis of Bertrand Gachot and Yukio Katayama. So the Lamborghini's in big trouble as we look at car number 19. That is Schumacher from Germany running 5th for Benetton Ford.
The advantage that the Benetton Ford has in the opening laps is that this car works better on full tanks. A loaded car in the Benetton is a better handling car than a light car. So what you saw in qualifying times of the Benetton perhaps don't show up quite what you see on the track now, because every car with a lot of added weight handles a little bit like a pregnant elephant in comparison to when it's agile in the gymnasium. So this extra weight, in fact, is helping the Benetton Fords right now.
McLaren in the person of Ayrton Senna leading. McLaren, the all-time leader in victories in Canada with 6. We're now on board with Michael Schumacher. Schumacher as he pursues Gerhard Berger. Down through the start-finish area comes the Benetton Ford. There it is right there. The car now in the center of your screen. Schumacher, an outstanding year for the 23-year-old from Germany. I was saying as we go back on board with Schumacher, he's now trying to move up on Berger, who's running 4th.
Very young driver at 23 years of age, has an incredible maturity for his years. I would have expected him to make more errors in this year. I was expecting him to write off 3 or 4 cars. In fact, he's done a couple of them. But in fact, he's been racing very well for a man with such little experience. Nowadays, it is absolutely essential to be a karter, to go go-kart racing at a very young age. He's been doing that, as was said earlier in the show with the interview with Barry Gill. There you see him getting his hands on the steering wheel as you look now at Nigel Mansell. The car car that has brought him so much success this year, 5 victories and 1 second out of 6 races. He's got more patience now, Brian, than he used to have. He's now got the pace of Senna. He's not going to let Senna get very far, I don't think, but now is not the time to be making the wild moves. He's got to conserve his tyres. He's got to conserve his brakes a little bit. This circuit's very hard on brakes, so this is not the time to be carrying out any tough manoeuvres.
And as we look at Mansell pursuing Senna, Nigel Mansell lost about 10 pounds. He's moved to Florida. They say not only mentally is he better, but physically he's in the best shape of his career. As Rundle in the second Benetton got a tire on the dirt coming into the start-finish area. But Mansell has really improved his conditioning in the off-season.
His attitude also is much better. Last year, you wouldn't have seen him at the racetrack on a Friday or a Saturday late afternoon. He would have been on the golf course. This year, he's at the racetrack. He's given this 100% this year, and I think he thought he had to one day win the World Championship. If he was going to do that, he would have to give it 100%. That's what he's doing. I think he's capable of doing it. I think this race today, you're going to see more going on than just this follow my leader routine.
It's interesting, after practice on Friday, Mansell told you the Hondas got more get up and go, more power on this racetrack. A lot of people thought maybe Mansell was playing games. You weren't so sure.
Well, I think the Renault team have done a very good job. They've given them extra power. Nigel is a little bit sensitive about that. He always seems to feel that everyone's getting something slightly better than him. I'm not sure that's necessarily a bad thing. It gives him a slight feeling of insecurity, and therefore by such he has to try harder, and there's nothing wrong with that, but it seems to be a little bit of a phobia with him. I don't think there is a big advantage right now, although the Williams run not as much wing normally as the McLarens. The suggestion was last year the McLaren was working so much wing and therefore giving so much downforce they could afford to do that because the Honda engine was giving an excess of power. So really Nigel felt that that was the case developing now.
As the cars have now completed 5 laps on board, that is Martin Brundle for Benetton Ford looking ahead to his teammate Schumacher. Brundle is running 6th. Schumacher is running 5th. Let me run down the top 10. It's Senna, Mansell, Patrese, Berger, Schumacher, Brundle, young Johnny Herbert for Lotus, Hakkinen, Alesi for Ferrari, and Wendlinger running in the number 10 position. Live coverage of the 1992 Grand Prix Mulsanne will continue on Sports Weekend right after this.
Out of respect and admiration for the civil engineers of the world who carved these exhilarating paths from the face of the earth, the engineers at Honda present an object to truly enjoy the fruits of their labor.
If you're looking for a name in electronics that works as hard and plays as hard as you, you're looking for Hitachi for exceptional performance.
With Jackie Stewart and Barry Gill, I'm Brian Williams. Welcome back live to Montreal as we complete 8 out of 69 laps. The 1992 Grand Prix Mulsanne. Patrese is car number 6, running 3rd, followed by Berger, Schumacher, and Brundle for Benetton, and then Johnny Herbert for Lotus. There is the race leader, Ayrton Senna. Senna pursued by Mansell and his teammate, Riccardo Patrese. And this might be a good time, Jackie Stewart, to talk about the computerized suspension system that the Williams cars, there's the McLaren of Senna, followed by the 2 Williams, Mansell and Patrese. Just what does it mean in layman's terms as you're going around this track?
It's called a semi-active suspension. Therefore, it's going to accommodate riding over bumps and undulations in a very easy way. The kickback through the steering that you're seeing in Schumacher's hands right now would not be coming back through nearly so much in an active suspension car. I've been working on this in road cars now in Detroit for a good many years with Ford, and I find this to be the next generation of suspension. Williams are at the moment the most advanced in it. Lotus play with it as well, and as a car company they've been doing research and development with it for a long time, but not in racing cars to the degree that we all expected. What it does do is eliminate traditional suspension in the old way. When you go over a bump, an active suspension car will ride over that bump without the passenger or the vehicle feeling the bump. It is cushioned out by the movement of a hydraulic system. Very sophisticated, a little bit heavy, full of electronics, and therefore very complicated. But if you get it to work, it is absolutely the best thing in the world.
All right, let's stay on this inboard camera. I know they want to go to Barry Gill. You see the shifting there by Michael Schumacher. They shift 38, 40 times a lap. What happens on the Williams where there is a semi-automatic?
The driver never takes his hand away from the steering wheel. On the right hand he goes up the way, on the left hand he goes down the way, and there's a little button behind his finger for him to do so. You never lose a gear that way, you never jump a gear that way, you never miss a gear that way. It's better for the engine, the transmission, and of course for the driver, and he can keep his head and his hands on the job.
And as they come down to complete 10 laps, Ayrton Senna now by 1 second over Mansell, Patrese, Berger, and Schumacher. As promised, Barry Gill standing by. Let's go down to Barry in the pits.
Well, if you see confused faces behind me in the Venturi LaRousse pit, it's because the teammates are not coming together. Bertrand Gatto tried to overtake his Japanese teammate, Katayama, and unfortunately ran over his wing. Gatto came up worst. He's been into the pits. There'll be some conversations this evening after the race.
All right, so one of the Lamborghinis is out, the Venturi Lamborghinis, and one still in the race. Still in the race, car number 1, your leader, Ayrton Senna. Senna, who won here in 1988 and again in 1990, comes off a victory in Monte Carlo.
This train of cars is really quite impressive at the present time. Nobody's getting away very far. Anyone making the smallest error of judgment would allow quite a few cars to get through, although in acceleration there, Mansell is the only man really in contact with Senna.
Outstanding pictures by our technicians from Radio Canada. Jackie, I can think of no other circuit in the world where you get that sense of speed as you do in that little left-right combination coming down into the start-finish area here in Montreal.
No, it's a great splash of speed, and of course it's one of the most demanding corners for the drivers too. There you see Ayrton Senna's gloved hand up there. He's got a manual transmission now, and Mansell is very close. This is the type of place where he could do a job under braking, going into one of the slow corners, going to the back end of the circuit. He's right in the spot to do it now. They'll come through another set of corners here, and then look out for Mansell. Not enough space here, but he's very ready for it. And Senna knows that Mansell, in fact, is extremely dangerous for him to be that close, so therefore he'll be wanting to build up a cushion. Mansell looking a little bit, no space there. They're coming up, of course, shortly now to the hairpin, and that's the right-hand hairpin. Let's see if Mansell can do it now. Senna's using the left-hand side of the road. This is the place to do it, but he's not close enough on this lap. And look, Senna was using a little bit of road that he would not normally use to block any effort of Mansell to get through if the notion had come to mind.
And as they come down to complete 12 laps in the 1992 Grand Prix Mulsanne, it's Ayrton Senna, followed by Nigel Mansell, Riccardo Patrese, Gerhard Berger, Michael Schumacher, Martin Brundle. Jean Alesi, for you great Italian fans, is running in the number 9 position, and the number 28 Ferrari of Ivan Capelli is running in the number 11 position. Here's a man under pressure, Martin Brundle. Berger's been under pressure driving with Senna. Brundle right there in the second of the Benettons under a lot of pressure too, Jackie Stewart.
Well, he's only under pressure at this moment actually to outperform his teammate, because this season he's been put in the shadow, in fact. by Schumacher. But right now, this particular race, I think he's shown himself to be very well adjusted. And of course, he's very close to Schumacher here in opening a little gap to the Lotus behind him by Johnny Herbert. But I think Martin Brundle is going to be, it's going to be tough for him to keep his place up with the German, because the German's so bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, the exuberance of youth. And there you see the first of the Ferraris, Jean Alesi, who, as you said so correctly earlier, many people saw him in the same light as they saw Gilles Villeneuve. Very exciting, very daring, but he hasn't quite delivered yet. Everyone's just waiting, but look how close Nigel is there. You know, the aerodynamics behind a car, the spoiled air immediately in the aftermath of a racing car is very turbulent, and it takes a lot of the downforce away from the car that's following. So this is not such an easy thing for Nigel Mansell to be doing, staying this close. He would love to get clean air, the type of air that Ayrton Senna's getting right now, driving down those wings, these front and rear wings that you can see so clearly.
Jackie, for the uninitiated, the flames and the sparks on the bottom of the cars, in particular on Ayrton Senna's that we see, absolutely nothing to worry about.
No, they're skid pads, usually with titanium, to stop the car from grinding itself away. And there we've got somebody into the barrier. That looks like the young Japanese driver.
It's one of the Venturis, and it's Katayama. I believe that's Katayama. Gasho is back in the race. We'll get a better look now as they come down into the sharp right-hand corner. He touched with one of the Tyrols of Elio. No, it was De Cesaris in the Tyrol touching with Katayama, and the Venturi, they're trying to push it back into the race. The Venturi's running well back in the pack. Katayama in the number 12 position. Here is Ayrton Senna, Nigel Mansell, Patrese is third, Berger is fourth, followed by Schumacher, Brundle, Herbert, Hakkinen, Alesi, Wendlinger, and Capelli. Stay with us. Live coverage of the 1992 Grand Prix Molson to Canada will continue on CBC right after this.
Here just a few seconds earlier, you would have got the new high-performance tires from Hankook in action. The V-rated Ventus from Hankook.
So we decided to hit the road. Kind of a Jack Kerouac thing. Didn't know where we were going or when we'd get there, but we were ready. Let's just let it cool down for a bit.
So where are we going to stay tonight?
Yeah, who's this Jack Kerouac?
We're lost. What good times are all about.
As we come back live to Montreal, that is Schumacher, Michael Schumacher, on board with Schumacher as he pursues Gerhard Berger. It's Ayrton Senna followed by Nigel Mansell. Car 6 is Ricardo Patrese. Berger in the second McLaren. Car number 2 is running fourth. He is then followed by Schumacher fifth. The other Benetton Ford of Brundle is sixth, and young Johnny Herbert is driving a big race for Lotus, standing in the number 7 position. There's Gerhard Berger. Berger, a driver under a lot of pressure. Michael Andretti is here this week, as is Al Unser Jr., Paul Tracy. Michael Andretti told us on Friday, Jackie, he's already turned down a ride with Ferrari. He would like to drive in Formula One, said he would like to get a decision within a month, and one team he's looking at is McLaren.
Well, I think he'd love to drive for McLaren. My bet is that if Michael Andretti goes anywhere, he will go to Ferrari, in fact, in my opinion. I think it'd be very suitable. That's what his father did during his career, and I could see it happening again. I think, and here we have, oh, and look at Berger coming right inside, almost to a point where I think Berger, I don't think he missed his braking distance, but I think he was in trouble there, because look how far he's dropped back now. And in fact, Schumacher's in a position to attack him. And I think Mansell, look at the peculiar line that Mansell's taking round that hairpin bend in comparison to everyone else. A different line altogether, a very wide entry and staying wide all the way down.
We were talking about Michael Andretti, Al Unser Jr., Paul Tracy, Scott Goodyear is here. Scott will join us in the booth, runner-up in the Indy 500. As we take a look at them again, this is Berger trying to pass Patrese. He does not do it. And that is Nigel Mansell. Mansell, in the start-finish area, has been involved in a minor accident as the march goes to the left to avoid it. There comes the Ferrari of Capelli. That is Nigel Mansell. His head appears to be leading a bit to the left.
Yeah, he's in trouble. He's in trouble. He's got his head floating over to the right. Professor Watkins, a neurosurgeon who stays on the job all of the time here, will go down there and see if there's anything wrong with him. We'll see that happening in a moment. Nigel Mansell is definitely out of this motor race right now. That leaves, for the moment, Ayrton Senna with a little bit of a cushion over Patrese, but let's see if we can see what occurred here. As he comes into that corner, Nigel Mansell is right off. He ran right across. He had a problem. He may have run short of brakes there as he went round. I don't think he's hit his head on anything. I think his feet came up, and he's hurt his feet when he came over the curbstones, because he doesn't appear to have hit anything very solidly. I think he's been just jostled around in the car. That would be my reading of it. And now the McLarens are sitting first and second.
And there's now a worker on the track attending to Nigel Mansell. We're under the yellow flag here in Montreal, and we will see it again. Mansell is now okay, signaling to stay to the left. Let's stay with this replay. Watch as it pans to the left. There's Mansell simply going through the dirt.
Yes, something happened there. He overcooked it. He left his braking too late, or something happened to his brakes, and he went straight on. The debris you see there is the front wing. Mansell's hurt his legs a little bit. I think he's all right. Nigel, emotionally, obviously, is sometimes quite fragile after an incident of any kind. He, I think, gets very, very tight from time to time after an incident, and he, from many occasions, has required tremendous assistance medically and then has quickly recovered thereafter. And I think we're seeing the same occurring here again. He's walking back. He seems perfectly all right. I think he's rather shocked by the whole affair, but there's Barry Gill right on the scene.
So Nigel Mansell, disappointed, not too badly hurt. Talking to Ron Dennis about what happened, obviously not happy with the incident. Ron telling him to calm down, as you can see. But Nigel, not a happy driver, but fortunately, Nigel Mansell not seemingly hurt too badly.
All right,
the most important thing for the audience at home is that Nigel is fit and well. Can I just ask you, Nigel, are you okay? He calls himself a world champion. I hope you saw it on television. Pushed me over, did he? Well, you heard what Nigel said then, that he calls himself a world champion. When he came to overtake, he pushed him over.
Let's see it again, if we can get another look at it. Mansell is accusing Senna right here. There's Senna. He says Senna's behind him now, that Senna pushed him into the sand area. Mansell is very, very lucky. That car did not hit the cement walls on either side of the track. Now we're looking at Ayrton Senna, who is the race leader through 17 laps. His teammate Berger is second. To repeat Jackie Stewart, just what Mansell said. He said he calls himself a world champion.
Well, I think what's happened here, we did not see the replay as it really occurred.
While today's car has been totally re-engineered, how well do you think it would work if we hadn't engineered your motor oil to keep up with it? Castrol XLR, the oil engineered for today's cars.
Look for Castrol at these and other retail outlets.
We're outside one of Calgary's best-kept dining secrets, Sarah's Pierogi Hut. The real story begins inside. Relaxed, charming atmosphere. But the big draw is the authentic Ukrainian food. Sarah's is the only restaurant in Calgary specializing in homemade pierogies of various fillings. Tender cabbage rolls, delightfully delicious nalesnika, a secret sauce Ukrainian sausage. Listen, try it for yourself. Sarah's Pierogi Hut, the best Ukrainian food in Calgary and probably the country. 1216 Center Street, Northeast.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Special Dry. Is this your average beer?
Looks like it could rain all weekend.
Come on, man, cheer up. While you're up, why don't you get us some beer?
Is this your average rainy weekend at the cottage?
Hi, from across the lake. Want to put some in a jar of
Molson Special Dry. It just could be the best beer ever brewed, anytime, anywhere.
Looks like it could rain all weekend.
Jeg spiller nu med farven, står klar.
Nej, lass ihn doch, vielleicht mag er keiner.
Naja, lass ihn doch. Helmut, steig ein.
Ist das ein deutsches Auto?
Nein, Acura.
Presenting the 1992 Vigor. Engineering demanded that only a 5-cylinder engine would be right for this automobile. So we built it. Our latest expression of New World thinking.
Ist das ein deutsches Auto?
Nein. Acura. Ah, Acura.
As we come back live to Montreal, now through 23 laps, it is still Ayrton Senna in first place. His teammate Gerhard Berger is second. That is Ricardo Patrese running third. Schumacher is fourth, followed by Brundle. With Jackie Stewart and Barry Gill, I'm Brian Williams. We understand we've had some technical problems, a power failure in our mobile center here in Montreal. Viewers along the network, Jackie, I understand, have been getting the pictures. Now, we lost power just after Nigel Mansell went out of the race, so it is still the McLaren of Senna leading. His teammate Berger closing in as they come down through the start for the Chariot to complete the 24th out of 69 laps. There is Patrese, the lone Williams still in the race, but let's go back and talk about Nigel Mansell and again what he had to say about Senna in case viewers missed it.
Well, I think what seemed to happen on the long straight coming down to the last chicane before the pits, Nigel Mansell must have drawn alongside Ayrton Senna, and doing so, Ayrton Senna seemed to have crowded him out because Mansell went straight across through the gravel patch, and by doing so damaged the front end of his car. The car came out of the corner in a spin, came to a stop. Nigel Mansell looked like he had been into shock or even unconsciousness as he lay in the cockpit. It would seem that was not the case. He did get out of the car under his own steam. He then stomped down the pit lane, went to the team manager of the McLaren team, Ron Dennis, and gave him a real piece of his mind, if you like, passing that on hopefully to Mr. Senna. And of course only then did he speak to Barry Gill, who passed on the word to us that of course Nigel Mansell says he thinks he's a world champion. He pushed me over, he pushed me off of the track, and clearly Nigel Mansell's a very angry man indeed. But there was no injury. He seems to be perfectly in order. The race is now settled down, but whether this locomotive of the McLaren 1-2 now can be disturbed by Patrese and the two Benetton Fords behind, that's another matter.
On board on the second of the Benetton Fords, that's Martin Brundle, who is running fifth, looking ahead to his teammate Schumacher, who is fourth, trailing Senna, Berger, and Patrese. Now, also out of the race is the number 28 Ferrari of Ivan Capelli, who crashed hard into the wall and was fortunate not to be injured.
And other retirements are Tarquini, Gasho, of course Mantle's out, we just mentioned Capelli, and Leto is also out. Now, of course, the back markers that we're seeing occasionally being lapped now by the leading group. That's a question for traffic, and there you see again the Benetton Ford being driven, and here you see over the curves they go. Look at the rise there in acceleration. A lot of opposite lock right there.
That is on board with Michael Schumacher. Schumacher, who is running in the number 4 position as they come around. There's Ayrton Senna, the race leader. Senna, his teammate Patrese. There's Patrese's, or his teammate Berger. There's Patrese's car owner, Frank Williams, in the pits. There go the 2 Benetton Fords, very close between the top 4 cars. There they are. Ayrton Senna, Gerhard Berger, Patrese, Schumacher, and Brundle very close between the top 5 cars as down through the start-finish area comes the race leader, Ayrton Senna. McLaren has won the Canadian Grand Prix 6 times. Denny Hulme in 1968. Peter Revson in 73 on board with Brundle. Fittipaldi in 74, James Hunt in 76, and Ayrton Senna here in Montreal in 88 and again in 1990. There is Martin Brundle just going through now. We were on board with Brundle looking ahead to his teammate Schumacher from Germany.
He certainly is driving a good race, as in fact all of those drivers are. But for Ayrton Senna, and it's Gerhard Berger you were looking at there, Senna's so experienced. He's had so many Grand Prix victories. He's in a position to pace a race with enormous intelligence. He has the ability to do that, I think, better than any driver in the world today. Ayrton Senna's the master at going faster under pressure. And I don't think he's being phased at all by this, because after all, he's got a little cushion there with Berger, and he's not going to allow Patrese to get through very easily. So it's Honda power, then the Williams, and then a cavalcade of Ford power immediately afterwards. The Lotus have dropped back a little bit now. The Lotuses are dropping back a little bit behind the Benettons, but in fact, this is still going to be a tough race towards the end. Incidentally, we've got quite a lot of oil in Schumacher's helmet coming off of the back of that McLaren earlier. Barry Gills down in the pits. Barry?
Well, this doesn't really look like Ferrari's day, does it? Most of the teams hope to run this race on the hard D-compound Goodyears for the whole race without a pit stop. But we were tipped off on the grid that the Ferrari would probably, because of its tyre wear, have to come in. And that's just what's happening. This pit crew are now waiting for John Alesi and hoping they can do a lightning pit stop, for which they're justly famous, to see if they can get him back in the action and into the points.
All right, Barry, Jean Alesi, the lone Ferrari, still in this race, running in the number 8 position. There is the race leader, Ayrton Senna, by about a second and a half over his teammate, Gerhard Berger.
The point here is we're getting up behind back markers. Now, this is very, very important. When you look at this cluster of back markers, now if you're leading, the blue flags are for you in most cases, but for that cluster of cars behind, Senna could make or break his race right here. He's already seen the advantage that he can take, and he's taken a little burst away from Berger. This is to try and let him get through those back markers on his own without losing any momentum, and then let the other ones worry about it. This is racecraft, and this is experience beginning to talk. Here's Senna coming along, and that's getting it behind. There he goes through one of the Jordan cars.
That's Stefano Modena. Stefano Modena has now been lapped by Ayrton Senna. So on the same lap, we have Senna, Berger, Patrese, Schumacher, Brundle, Herbert, Hakkinen, and Alesi.
And look at that.
Senna.
Look at that. You see, Senna's getting the gap, and Berger can't find a way through. Now he's finding the way through, but it's cost him. Now the question for Patrese is for him to find the way through.
Right there, car 32, that is Stefano Modena. He has been lapped by Ayrton Senna. There's Senna, and then Senna will come through, followed, there's Ayrton Senna right there, followed by Gerhard Berger, and then then Modena, who is a lap down and now causing problems for Patrese, Schumacher, and Brundle, who are running in the numbers 3, 4, and 5 positions. The leader, Patrese, now coming up on the Tyrrell of de Cesaris.
This lapping thing is so important, Brian, because if they get a gap here, this is going to be the big difference. And this is where Senna has already shown himself. He tried to do it there, but not possible. He lost his momentum there. He's got to find a way past the Tyrrell. And remember, these other guys are racing.
And that is the
Gruyere.
Dallara, as now around behind the Dallara comes race leader Ayrton Senna. So Senna is about to lap J.J. Leto. Ayrton Senna the leader, followed by Berger, Patrese, Schumacher, Brundle in the number 5 position. If you are just joining us, we have completed 29 out of 69 laps here in Montreal today. Scott Goodyear, the runner-up in the Indy 500, is here. Will join us in the booth shortly.
Here again, you see this traffic jam here. Try to find a piece of road that's clean. Berger's made a good job of it. He's closed up again on Ayrton Senna, so Ayrton Senna has been held up a little bit. Patrese's still the loser here, and Senna's got himself behind again.
Now this is very interesting as Senna tries to make a move on the Dallara, and what's interesting is that he has just lapped de Cesaris, who is running in the number 11 position. Ayrton Senna, the race leader, followed by teammate Gerhard Berger as they go by the slower cars, and they've now opened up some real distance ahead of Riccardo Patrese.
Yeah. Actually, most of the drivers have done a fairly good job at getting through there. Very good job. No contact, no great loss of ground. It can be so expensive under those circumstances.
Down through the start finish area comes Ayrton Senna, followed by Gerhard Berger, who is running second. And then Schumacher, Brundle, Herbert, Hakkinen. Alesi for Ferrari is now in the number 8 position. Wendlinger and Katayama rounding out the top 10. Michele Alboreto is driving in the number 13 position. Paul Belmondo still in this race, the son of French actor Jean-Paul Belmondo, running in the number 16 position. Out of the race is Nigel Mansell, who spun just before the start-finish line, had harsh words for Ayrton Senna, claimed Senna cut him off. Also out of the race after a hard impact with a concrete wall, fortunately no injury, is the number 28 Ferrari of Ivan Capelli. Ayrton Senna still leading this Grand Prix Molson, and our live coverage from Montreal will continue on this warm, sunny afternoon. It's Ayrton Senna, followed by his teammate Berger and Riccardo Patrese.
As hard and plays as hard as you. You're looking for Hitachi, for exceptional performance.
You may never have to find out how much control Yokohama all-season tires really give you. But with 70 years of tire engineering excellence and long-lasting traction, it's always there if you need it, no matter what kind of car you drive. Yokohama Performance Radials. Now you've got control.
As we come back live to Montreal with Jackie Stewart and Barry Gill, I'm Brian Williams. Ayrton Senna, the race leader, followed by Gerhard Berger. Patrese is running third as they go around the hairpin turn at the east end of Ile Notre Dame. If you're just joining us, Nigel Mansell spinning out is out of the race, as is Ivan Capelli for Ferrari. They have completed 31 out of 69 laps, and down to complete lap 32 comes Ayrton Senna, Gerhard Berger, Riccardo Patrese, Michael Schumacher. We're on board with Schumacher, the number 4 car. Running 5th is his teammate Brundle. Alesi, the only Ferrari, is running in the number 8 position. Down through the start-finish line, Michael Schumacher, little turn to the left, and then that sharp right turn back up onto the north side of Ile Notre Dame. Now on with Martin Brundle as we go back to Schumacher's car. There's Schumacher, followed by Martin Brundle. Schumacher in 4th place, Brundle in 5th. Ayrton Senna, the race leader. McLaren has won the Canadian Grand Prix 6 times, Ferrari on 4 occasions, Williams on 4 occasions, and Brabham 4 different times. Well, as we take a look at Schumacher and also his teammate Martin Brundle, Jackie Stewart, at the start of the show today, we saluted Gilles Villeneuve. It's been 10 years since he was killed in Belgium trying to qualify for the Belgian Grand Prix. Earlier this year, there's Ayrton Senna, followed by Berger. The biggest achievement for a Canadian in motorsport since the days of Gilles Villeneuve. Toronto's Scott Goodyear finishing 2nd in the closest Indy 500 in history. Scott joins us in the booth. Congratulations.
Thank you, Brian.
Well, Scott, I sat in England watching by satellite your performance over those last amazing laps. I have to tell you, it's with great admiration that I was watching the show. Congratulations from me also. It must be the biggest moment ever in your life, isn't it?
Certainly, without a doubt, and I can certainly recall coming back in my Formula Ford days and running the 1980 supporting race to the Grand Prix here, and at that time I thought that I was really having an opportunity to showcase in front of the world. I had aspirations towards Formula One, but IndyCar racing is really enjoyable for me right now, and to go to Indianapolis after watching it on TV for so many years and getting to run against the guys like Andretti that I grew up watching on TV along with yourself, Jackie, it really has made me feel great to actually just go there and compete and run well.
Well, Scott, give a wave. Turn around to the camera there behind you. Scott in the booth with us here this afternoon. Jim O'Donnell from Mackenzie is here. I know Jackie Stewart last year, as we're on board with Schumacher, who is running in the number 4 position, trailing Patrese, Berger, and Senna. Last year, you made a comment when I asked you how can Canadians succeed in international motor racing. You talked about sponsorship.
Well, I said to that time, really to Jim, he's been a great carrier of the flag for Canada in the commercial sense, but really, I said that Canada's really got to get off its backside, and Canadian business has got to get behind its sportsmen if they ever want to see another Gilles Villeneuve come along. Now, Scott Goodyear's done incredibly well at Indianapolis, more or less all carried by one Canadian businessman. I would like to see Canada getting behind many more young drivers for the future. That's very important, and if that's not done, I don't think you're going to have a heritage in the future to be able to be proud of.
All right, Scott, stay with us. We're back on board with Michael Schumacher. We are just about at the halfway mark of the 1992 Grand Prix Molson de Canada. It's still Ayrton Senna, followed by Berger, his teammate, and Riccardo Patrese. Interesting to have Scott Goodyear with us as we look at the number 24 Minardi of Morbidelli. Interesting to have Scott Goodyear with us. There is Senna, followed by Berger, because there's Patrese in 3rd. But a lot of speculation, Scott, that Michael Andretti would go to replace either Berger or perhaps Capelli with Ferrari. You're here, Paul Tracy's here, Andretti's here with his father as Berger tries to make a move on Ayrton Senna, but does not succeed. Jackie Stewart.
And that opens it up for Patrese now to make a move on Berger. He's in a position to do so. Watch this for moves. Can he do it? He hasn't tried. Berger closed the door a lot, but look how close the Benetton Fords have got. Now Schumacher, that mistake, not a mistake, but that attempt by Berger was expensive to him. It's ruined his timing just a little bit, and now he's dropped back from Senna, and the others suddenly climbed all over him. And there's Nigel Mansell. Looked like he's going home with many of the British journalists. The man who wrote a book with him on the left-hand side in the pink shirt, Derek also.
All right, very quickly, let's go down to Barry Gill for the latest on Nigel Mansell. Barry?
Well, we have some very important news from you here in the pits. The battle between Ayrton Senna and Nigel Mansell in this Grand Prix is not over yet. Nigel Mansell, despite those damaged legs, has gone to see the stewards, he's climbed the stairs of the control tower, and he's gone to file an official complaint against Senna's driving. We'll try and keep you posted. Back to you, Brian and Jackie.
All right, as we're back on board now with Michael Schumacher as he pursues Ricardo Patrese. There's the race leader, Ayrton Senna, followed by Berger, Patrese, Schumacher. Herbert is in the pits for Lotus and was having a strong day. As we look at Johnny Herbert in the pits, the young driver for Lotus who qualified so well. He qualified 6th, his best ever. I'm afraid the race is over today for Johnny Herbert. Now look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The top 5 cars after 35 laps, all within 3 or 4 seconds of each other. Scott Goodyear, we see that in IndyCar racing. We're not accustomed to seeing it in Formula One, Jackie. This is without question the closest Canadian Grand Prix I can remember.
Yes, it's very tight. I still want to see a few passes, though. We haven't seen many attempts at that, and we may be able to get that. It's not like Berger to force his way past his teammate, but I think that Patrese is going to have to get a lot closer before he can really take anything really in hand. And remember, he's got to get through Berger before he can get to Senna. So Senna's got a little bit of a cushion there, but certainly another Lotus. No, that's
the first of the Lotuses. That's Mika Hakkinen. So it looks like both Lotuses are out of the race. Johnny Herbert's already in the pits. That is Mika Hakkinen, who was running in the number 8 position. There are the top 2 cars as we take this break in Montreal. The standings, it's Ayrton Senna, followed by Berger, Patrese, Schumacher, Brundle, and Delacey. We'll return live right after this.
It takes millions of gallons of water a minute to turn on your lights. Yet it now requires less than 3 tablespoons of fuel per kilometer to carry you swiftly over the earth. The new Civic VX from Honda. Just think of what you can save.
So we decided to hit the road. Kind of a Jack Kerouac thing. Didn't know where we were going or when we'd get there, but we were ready.
Just let it cool down for a bit.
So where are we going to stay tonight?
Yeah, who's this Jack Kerouac?
We're lost.
What good times are all about.
As we return live to the Circuit Villeneuve, Notre Dame in Montreal, the 1992 Grand Prix de Molson. I'm Brian Williams. Scott Goodyear, the runner-up in the Indy 500, joining Jackie Stewart and myself in the booth. Scott, a lot of drivers here. I've been talking about it. Michael Andretti, Paul Tracy, Al Unser Jr., yourself. How many seriously considering rides in Formula One? Ayrton Senna's out of the race. Hang on, we'll get to that in just a minute. But Ayrton Senna has just pulled off to the side. So Senna, the race leader, drops out. Mansell already out of the race, filing an official protest against Senna. Jackie Stewart, unbelievable.
Well, that's motor racing. It must be a mechanical. He's talking through the radio mic in his helmet. He's talking now back to the pits to his team manager, advising them what the story is. And there, as his team Honda people, whether it's engine trouble or whether it's to do with Ron Dennis, the man you see in the center of your picture up there, looking round towards us now, he will be speaking to Ayrton Senna by radio. He knows exactly what's going on now, but of course he's still got Berger in first place. Now Berger is much more vulnerable to pressure, and here you see the situation developing from behind. You see, and there's suddenly the loss of power by Ayrton Senna as the other 3 cars comfortably go through, accelerating away, and suddenly it went dead. It wasn't on an acceleration area. It was something that could have been electrical that the car suddenly cut out on. It could have been a transmission failure, but it wasn't anything hard. It wasn't suddenly a drive shaft shearing. So it was a fairly slow program, but now all of the weight is on Gerhard Berger's shoulders for Team McLaren as one of Eddie Jordan's cars come in for a wheel change, but it's a docile stop. I think it's more than tires.
So the big story now is Gerhard Berger as he comes through the sharp right turn. Gerhard Berger followed by Patrese, Schumacher and Brundle in the Benettons running 3rd and 4th. Delacey in the number 27 Ferrari, Villeneuve's old number, has moved up into the number 5 position. Gerhard Berger preparing now to pass one of the Dolaras. I believe that is J.J. Lato. It is indeed, as Gerhard Berger comes down through the start-finish area. Gerhard Berger and McLaren leading 1992 Grand Prix Molson here in Montreal. You're on board with Michael Schumacher, who's running fourth, or I should say, yes, running fourth. Brundle has passed Schumacher. Schumacher is now fourth. Here's the pass, Jackie.
As they come in, Schumacher got it wrong somehow or other in overtaking the other car, exactly under lapping situations. And I said earlier in this telecast, lapping other cars, particularly back markers, is a major problem and can affect dramatically the outcome of a race. Suddenly Martin Brundle forges his way through there with more momentum, finds himself now on a podium finish opportunity.
Gerhard Berger under so much pressure. Let me go back to you, Scott Goodyear. There's the leader, Berger. Car 6 is Patrese. He's running second, but Scott Goodyear, we have Michael Andretti, yourself, Al Unser Jr. They're all here. I know Andretti's talking about going to Formula One as we're on board with Alesi. How serious is he?
Well, I heard speculation when I first arrived this morning from Toronto that maybe he and Ferrari were going to get together, but one never knows until they make an announcement. There's always speculation. It's really the silly season. Seems like silly season starts earlier every year. I guess we'll just have to wait and see.
There is Martin Brundle. Brundle going through, followed by his teammate Michael Schumacher. Brundle is third, and Schumacher is fourth, as they will try to go by the Dallara. Again, the problem is passing the slower cars. Senna and Mansell are both out of the race. Berger under a lot of pressure to preserve his ride. We're now on board with Michael Schumacher looking ahead to his teammate Martin Brundle. Brundle also has been in the shadow this year.
Yes, Brundle was one car ahead there. He's now passed the slower car and he's now setting himself the sights of catching up again with his own teammate Martin Brundle, who's been searching this year to show any sort of advantage on this. His teammate, his young 23-year-old teammate, Michael Schumacher. But it seems to me that Patrese's dropped back a little bit from the McLaren, and there's our leader right now, Gerhard Berger, desperately searching for a victory. Here you see in the top end of our picture, car of Riccardo Patrese, a man who's done more Grand Prix starts than any man in the history of motorsport, 231 after today.
Well, you talked about Berger searching for victory. Gerhard Berger's last victory was in Japan in 1991. He is 32 years of age, has 6 career victories, his 3rd season with McLaren. Patrese is second. You're on board with Jean Alesi, who is running in the number 5 position. The lone Ferrari left in this race. Ivan Capelli hit the wall earlier. It is Capelli. Many are speculating that Michael Andretti will replace next year. Andretti told me Friday afternoon he has already turned down Ferrari once. He wants a ride now with either Ferrari, McLaren, or possibly Williams, and he wants a decision within 1 month. Carl Haas, his team owner, is here this week, as are many of the great veterans. Niki Lauda is now advising Ferrari. Michael Schumacher from Germany, now trying to gain ground after that mistake on his teammate, Martin Brundle. You saw the Minardi of Morbidelli, car 24, re-entering the race. We've now completed 41 out of 69 laps here in Montreal. There's Ayrton Senna out of the race, the defending world champion, a winner here in 88 and 90. Started from the pole position in both of those years, as he did today. Those that are superstitious were forecasting a Senna win today. It was not to be. Senna out of the race. The race is being run under protest. Nigel Mansell filing an official complaint claiming he was cut off coming into the start-finish area by Senna. Right here, right about here, is where Berger's coming through now, followed by Mansell's teammate Patrese. It was right about there, Jackie Stewart, that Nigel Mansell spun and was out of the race, and he has filed an official protest, as Barry Gill reported, against Ayrton Senna.
Well, that will have to wait to be seen by the stewards in due course, whether that protest has been officially filed. We'll have to have confirmation of that, and they, the stewards, will have jurisdiction in the short term as to what may come of that, but only time will tell. In the meantime, Gerhard Berger now has firmly on his shoulders the responsibility of this McLaren team to bring home a victory. It's both the number 2 drivers, if you look at it in that respect, who have now got to battle out the remaining part of this Grand Prix of Canada. And here we have a pit stop in the Tyrrell team for tyres. There's been a lot of speculation. That's Gruyard who's in for pits and been for tyres, and out he goes with fresh tyres. That will certainly give him a speed advantage. Cold racing tyres will probably give at least a second a lap advantage to any driver right now. It could well be that if Patrese feels that he's not going to catch Berger in this fashion, that he could take the gamble a little further up the road to come in for tyres. This here racetrack in Montreal, you get a very quick entrance to the pits and a very quick exit from the pits. With a 6-second pit stop, it sometimes can be considered worth stopping to get the advantage of a tyre speed factor.
So the standings here in Montreal, Gerhard Berger, the race leader, followed by Patrese, Brundle, Schumacher, Alesi is now 5th. Both Senna and Mansell are out of this race.
Welcome to the dance. Everybody stepping out right now. Put on the moves, you make them smooth. Everybody wants to jump in the groove. Kiss the beat, make your hands meet. Slide the rhythm down, kick your feet in the street. Gotta race for the silver bullet. Gotta ride, you know the right beat now.
With enough heat and friction to weld metal, the only thing that keeps today's higher revving, hotter running engine from grinding to a halt is the oil you put in it. Castrol XLR, the oil engineered for today's cars. Look for Castrol at these and other retail outlets.
And as we come back live to Montreal, there are now 25 laps to go. Into the pits comes Patrese. Patrese, running second, has come into the pits. That means Brundle moves up to second. Schumacher is third behind the leader, Berger. He's got problems.
He's stopping. He's given the sign. This is over. The day is over for the Williams team. His hands went up in very Italian style. You can see at this point he's getting out of his race car. Coming out, it will be a DNF. Did not finish for the Williams team. What a shock for them, considering the record they've had so far this year. 6 Grand Prix, and they have won 5 of them, finished second in 1. They've had 4 firsts and seconds, and now it's left to this man as a clear leader, and followed by British driver Martin Brundle, followed by his teammate Michael Schumacher from Germany. So it's Austria, Britain and Germany in the first 3 right now.
And a great story. I'm not sure we can get a shot of it as we look at Ayrton Senna. Ayrton Senna, or Gerhard Berger, I should say, Senna's teammate, the race leader. Berger's best finish here in Canada was 5th in 1990. There is Martin Brundle. Benetton second. His teammaker Schumacher is third. Out of the race, with that shark-type nose comes the Benetton. Out of the race are both Ayrton Senna and Nigel Mansell. You saw Patrese just drop out, but I'm not sure if our director can get a shot of it, but running in the number 4 position is now the Ferrari of Jean Alesi, car 27. That is Gilles Villeneuve's old number. The Ferrari has moved into the number 4 position. Let me give you the top 5 very quickly. It's Gerhard Berger, followed by Martin Brundle, Michael Schumacher, Jean Alesi, and Wendlinger. That is quite a story. Wendlinger running in the number 5 position in the Ilmor-powered March.
Well, they've been struggling to get enough money to even come to Montreal. So that's a nice result for them. And there's one of the Benetton cars of, no, it's Brundle. He's come to a stop. My goodness, are we seeing attrition? And this is the end of his day. So we now find Schumacher moving up into 2nd position. And clearly there's a mechanical happening there. It's just suddenly died on him. And that's the end. And look at him punching the screen there in aggravation and annoyance. He's had a problem. Martin Brundle, world champion sports car driver, driving for the Benetton Ford. You can see his on-camera head rocking back and forward, really in disappointment.
As we look at Martin Brundle, you saw him punch the steering wheel in frustration. Gerhard Berger is the race leader. Schumacher has now moved into second. Ferrari, Jean Alesi now running in the number 3 position. Wendlinger for March is up to the number 4 position. Gerhard Berger, the race leader.
Well, if we think of Jean Alesi in 3rd position, driving number 21, that's the car number, as we know, that was driven by Gilles Villeneuve. I'm very happy to report we had in the commentary position earlier this afternoon that Jacques Villeneuve, the son of Gilles Villeneuve, won his first ever Formula 3 race today in Japan, this very day. And that's 10 years ago, of course, that his father died. So I would say congratulations to young Jacques, congratulations to the Villeneuve family, another champion.
Now 8 seconds between the leader, car number 2, Gerhard Berger, and the 2nd place car of Schumacher. Driving behind Berger is Michele Alboreto in the Footwork Honda. So he is more than a lap down, as there are only 4 cars on the same lap here in Montreal right now. It's been a war of attrition. Down through the start-finish area comes Gerhard Berger, as Berger will try to go past one of the back markers. There's one of the Venturi Lamborghinis well back in the field, but Berger now with a 9-second lead over Michael Schumacher. Lamborghini of Katayama, not a factor in this race for so many laps, now moving up to the number 5 position. This is unbelievable. The Venturi Lamborghini you're looking at of Katayama, Yukio Katayama, running in the number 5 position. On board now with the Ferrari of Jean Alesi. Alesi running in the number 3 position. It is Berger. There's the Ferrari, car 27, Jean Alesi, and Ferrari with a tremendous history in Canada, winning for the first time in 1970 with Jackie Ickx. Gilles Villeneuve won here on this race course in 1978. Also here in Montreal, René Arnoux winning in 1983, and Michele Alboreto, who is driving today for the Footwork Honda team, won for Ferrari in 1985. On board with Michael Schumacher. He is running second. You can't even see the leader, Gerhard Berger. So Schumacher now 8 seconds behind Berger. There is Schumacher with that shark-like nose on the Benetton Ford. His teammate Martin Brundle is out of the race. Car 2, the leader, Gerhard Berger. McLaren trying to win Grand Prix Mulsanne for the 7th time, their first victory. Their second, or the first victory was the 2nd ever Canadian Grand Prix. That was by Denny Hulme, the New Zealander, back in 1968. Gerhard Berger, whose best results so far this season have been a 5th at Kyalami in South Africa, 4th in both Mexico and Spain. His best ever finish here in Montreal at Grand Prix Mulsanne was a 5th in 1990. That race won by his teammate Ayrton Senna, who is out of this race, as are both Williams cars, Nigel Mansell and Ricardo Patrese. As we come down to complete 49 out of 69 laps, it is still Gerhard Berger, followed by Schumacher, the Ferrari, now running 3rd in the 1992 Grand Prix Mulsanne. Live coverage will continue from Ile Notre Dame in Montreal right after this.
We decided to hit the road. Kind of a Jack Kerouac thing. Didn't know where we were going or when we'd get there, but we were ready.
Just let it cool down here a bit.
So where are we going to stay tonight?
Yeah, who's this Jack Kerouac?
We're lost.
What good times are all about. Works as hard and plays as hard as you. You're looking for Hitachi, for exceptional performance.
back live to Montreal. That is race leader Gerhard Berger about to complete his 50th lap. This is a 69-lap race now. Jackie Stewart, for those just joining us, Senna, both Williams cars, Patrese and Mansell are out of the race. Berger at one point had a big 8-second lead over Schumacher for Benetton, but you've got some stats from Ken and Sandra Tyrrell.
Well, certainly Schumacher's put the pressure on. One lap there, he was lapping 2 seconds a lap faster than the leader, and he's been lapping almost 1 second a lap faster than the leader. He's now brought that gap right down to about 5.5 seconds. So there is a bit of fire left in Schumacher here. This race is far from being over. I've seen a lot of Canadian Grand Prix won in the last 10 or so laps because it's a very hard race on fuel, it's a very hard race on brakes, and it could be a hard race on tires. So I think we're going to see some action here from Schumacher. He's young, he's enthusiastic, bright eyes and bushy tails, and he doesn't know how to be beaten. He's so young that that enthusiasm can overcome a lot of things.
Gerhard Berger about to lap car number 4. Now that is Andrea De Cesaris driving for Ken Tyrrell, and De Cesaris is standing in the number 6 position as we go back on board with Michael Schumacher, who is now within 4 seconds of Gerhard Berger. There is De Cesaris, who is running 6th for Ken Tyrrell, followed by the race leader Gerhard Berger, as Berger will try to lap the number 6 car. But the big story is Michael Schumacher is beginning to close the gap on Berger as Berger now goes by De Cesaris. De Cesaris again is running 6th. Let me run down the top 10 for you. Gerhard Berger is the race leader, followed by Michael Schumacher. Jean Alesi for Ferrari running in the number 3 position. Wendlinger is running 4th. Katayama, big surprise, in the number 5 position, driving for Venturi in the Lamborghini. De Cesaris is 6th for Ken Tyrrell. Eric Comas, driving for Ligier, is 7th. Alboreto in a footwork Honda is running, and a former winner here for Ferrari is running 8th. Pierluigi Martini is 9th, and J.J. Leto is running for Dallara Ferrari in the number 10 position. Quickly, let's go down to Barry Gill.
Well, I've just come from behind the Williams pit where Nigel Mansell, now fully dressed, is leaving the circuit with his wife. Nigel went to see the stewards. The team has not submitted an official protest. He has talked to the stewards about the incident. They are now investigating it.
All right, Barry, and running 3rd right here, car number 27, Jean Alesi. There's a great story. I know the Italian fans right now chanting Forza Italia, longing for a win by Ferrari. It's been a long time, and as we look at Alesi trying to lap one of the Dallaras, the Dallara of Katayama, we should point out that there is a new president at Ferrari by the name of Luca Di Marzamolo. Now, he's a former racing official. He worked with Niki Lauda. What is the relationship there, Jackie, and what does it mean to Ferrari as we're on board with Alesi?
Well, Montezemolo was the man who ran the World Cup soccer event in Rome there recently. He's an associate of Gianni Agnelli, and in fact is related to Agnelli. And Luca Montezemolo was team manager of Ferrari in the halcyon days when Niki Lauda was there. So it's that kind of organizational ability they're looking towards Montezemolo to have to bring Ferrari back to strength. Everybody thinks it's the right move. It was he who brought Niki Lauda in as an advisor, and that's why Niki Lauda is here at the Grand Prix of Canada. So Ferrari really have been suffering over these last years with poor management structure rather than the inability to make a good engine or a good chassis. It's a question of bringing everyone together to creating the best team effort, and Montezemolo is being looked as the person to do that job.
This is Karl Wendlinger from Austria in the Ilmor-powered March, and Wendlinger is running in the number 4 position. It's Gerhard Berger, the leader, followed by Schumacher, Alesi, Wendlinger, who you're looking at. Running 5th is Katayama. Big surprise for Venturi with the Lamborghini engine. Running 6th is De Cesaris for Ken Tyrrell. Running 7th is Comas for Ligier. Alboreto for the Footwork Honda team is running 9th. Pierluigi Martini is running in the number 10 position. So a lot of drivers that we don't usually see on the leaderboard figuring very prominently in this Grand Prix Molson with about 16 laps to go. Ferrari's last win was in 1990. There's race leader Gerhard Berger. Berger leading Schumacher by 7 seconds. He is leading Ferrari by 28 seconds. Ferrari's last victory was in Spain by Alain Prost in 1990. Ferrari's last win here in Canada was on this circuit by Michele Alboreto in 1985. And Alboreto is now running 8th, driving a Footwork Honda.
I don't think Schumacher's going to make the impression that I expected him to make. He's dropped back now to almost 8 seconds behind Berger. I think Berger's got this race by the scruff of his neck now. I would be surprised, short of a mechanical failure or an unforeseen circumstance, if Berger is going to lose this motor race. But on the other hand, we've seen it so many times before, the hundreds of thousands of moving parts within any motor vehicle. Any one of those fragile and light parts can go wrong, and a situation can occur that could change the whole issue.
That is Berger just passing Katayama in the Venturi Lamborghini. Now Katayama is running 5th, so he has been lapped for the 2nd time by Berger. There is Ayrton Senna now just making his way back to the pits. Senna's car stopped on the track, no incident. Of course, Mansell was involved in a bad spin, cut off by Senna, according to Mansell, but Senna ran out of power, it seems like hours ago, and he's now just making it back to the pits. He's obviously been watching from the far side of the track.
It may be interesting for Barry Gill to look down the pits and try and find Ayrton Senna and get his opinion of the same incident, because Senna would be most likely able to speak to him about that, and hopefully Barry is hearing us now as Ayrton Senna is now making his way up in front of the pits to his own pit. So let's hope that we might be able to make contact with him.
On board Michael Schumacher as he passes Andrea De Cesaris driving for Ken Tyrrell. Schumacher is running 2nd. De Cesaris, whom he has just passed, is running in the number 6 position.
Schumacher now is more than 30 seconds ahead of Alesi, so he's in a very comfortable position, although he doesn't seem to be making any ground up on Gerhard Berger, who certainly got it uneven under braking there. It could be that the front brakes gave out just a little bit. I've been saying to you that brakes are an issue, and there is Ayrton Senna giving many interviews, it would seem now, on his opinion. Whether it has been said to other people that Mansell is unhappy, I'm certain it's made a quick round of the media in these last half hour or 30 minutes, so it'll be interesting to see the reaction of Senna.
There is Jean Alesi, the number 27 Ferrari, coming down across the start-finish line. On board now with Alesi, the words "Salut Gilles" written on the track by the start-finish area to salute Gilles Villeneuve. Stay with us. Live coverage of Grand Prix Molson, the 1992 edition from Montreal, will continue in just a minute. Ayrton Senna, Nigel Mansell, and Patrese all out of this race.
Gianni, che sorpresa!
Ciao papà, come stai?
Bene.
Senti, ti voglio far vedere una cosa, guarda.
Cos'è? La Ferrari?
No, papà, Acura.
Acura?
Acura?
Welcome to New World Thinking. Aluminum body, chassis, and midship engine, handcrafted. The NSX from Acura.
Is this your average quiet night in?
Showtime.
Alex. Hi, I'm not disturbing anything, am I?
No, just a quiet night in.
Oh, sounds like it.
Beer?
Yeah, please.
Is this your average beer? Molson Special Dry. It just could be the best beer ever brewed, anytime, anywhere.
Well, we're on lap number 57. This is a 69-lap race. And there is Michele Alboreto in the Footwork Honda. Car 9 is a 10-cylindered Honda. as opposed to the 12-cylinder Honda engines used by race leader Gerhard Berger and his teammate Ayrton Senna, who is out of this race. With Jackie Stewart and Barry Gill, I'm Brian Williams. It's Gerhard Berger leading Michael Schumacher. Jean Alesi for Ferrari is third. Wendlinger is fourth. Katayama is fifth. De Cesaris is sixth. Comas is seventh. And Michele Alboreto, seen here, coming into your picture now. The second of the two cars you're looking at. Alboreto is standing in the number 8 position. A winner here for Ferrari. But the big story for Ferrari today is car number 27 and Jean Alesi running third behind Berger and Schumacher.
There's been very heavy attrition because there's only now 4 cars running in the same lap. So there's been quite a lot of mechanical attrition. This is a tough racetrack on cars. It's been clearly seen today. It's very warm here. It's very humid. But it's unfortunate that so many of our front runners have fallen out of this, of course, to the benefit of people like Michele Alboreto. Very charming man, has driven not only for Ferrari but Tyrrell, and now driving for a Japanese-owned Arrows team, the footwork team. Experienced driver, one that never quite made the very big time. He looked for a while like he was going to be one of the great drivers of the world, and then suddenly the plateau evened off. Keep in mind that those drivers are having to handle about 700+ horsepower around this tight circuit. We've got engines from Renault, from Honda, Ferrari, from Ford, Lamborghini, Elmore and Yamaha. So there's a lot of big players in this business.
And you're watching the race for the number 7 position, Michele Alboreto in the footwork Honda, closing up on the Ligier, car number 26 of Eric Comas. And there is race leader Gerhard Berger. Berger, as we're now on lap number 59. This is a 69-lap event. Ayrton Senna, Nigel Mansell, and Riccardo Patrese all out of this race, as is the number 2 Ferrari of Ivan Capelli. Gerhard Berger now goes past Carl Wendlinger. Wendlinger is running 4th and is now 2 laps down, so only 3 cars on the same lap. This car, race leader Gerhard Berger, Michael Schumacher 7 seconds behind for Benetton, and then Jean Alesi 41 seconds behind the leader driving for Ferrari. Gerhard Berger, who was 5th here in 1990, his best ever result in Montreal, barring mechanical problems, seems a shoo-in to improve on that here today. His last victory, 1991 in Japan. He has 6 career wins, his 3rd season for McLaren. And as Gerhard Berger comes down through the start-finish area, 10 laps to go. Gerhard Berger has been under tremendous pressure. You might have been with us earlier, heard from Scott Goodyear. Goodyear is here along with Al Unser Jr. Michael Andretti confirmed to us as we're on board now with Michael Schumacher, as Schumacher tries to go by one of the back markers and does, and raises his fist, giving him the gesture, telling him in no uncertain terms what he thinks of his blocking. Jackie, mandatory for the slower cars to let a car like Schumacher go by who's running second?
Problem is that some of the younger drivers and less experienced drivers are so busy driving the cars that they don't seem to pay any attention to their mirrors, and you see there that in fact he was cut right off, but it might have been Wendlinger there, I'm not quite sure.
It was Wendlinger.
And suddenly for Michael Schumacher, he thought he was being given that corner, and clearly Wendlinger had not been looking in his rear view mirrors. But keep in mind, the rear view mirror in a Formula One racing car is smaller than most wives' makeup mirrors. I mean, it's a very small experience, and at the same time with a great deal of vibration. So there's not a lot to see back there. The experienced drivers have plenty of time to do all of that stuff. But sometimes if you're out there in a racing car, it's like a paper hanger in a thunderstorm. There's an awful lot to do.
All right, if we can stay with Michael Schumacher, tell me about this shark-type nose. It almost looks like a shark coming at you, the front of the car, and the advantage.
Well, it comes from the tunnel, really, the aerodynamic wind tunnel I speak of. And most of the design of racing cars today is based on the aerodynamics, how much downforce you can create and how much penetration through the air with the least resistance. And there you see a wonderful picture of it. That's a revolutionary shape. It's a little bit like Concorde. If you see pictures of Concorde with that great snout that it has, it penetrates the air and allows the wind and air to cut through. Unlike the more traditional nose, such as the Alessi Ferrari that you're looking at right now, the Benetton Ford is much more a clean cut and therefore giving more downforce all the way done. And it was first done, incidentally, by the Tyrrell team. They were the first to introduce this new high nose that we've been speaking of.
And of course, we're grateful to the Tyrrells, Ken Jr. and his wife Sandra, again with us this year in the booth, as they are at the Molson Indy in Toronto, keeping our lap charts, and they're actually ahead of the computer as we look at Jean Alesi. Jean Alesi, and now on board with Michael Schumacher. Schumacher is 9 seconds behind the leader, Berger. That is not Berger's car in front of Schumacher. He can't even see Berger. About 8 laps to go in this 69-lap race. And Michael Schumacher, in only his 13th Formula One race, his best finish was second this year in Spain.
The Benetton car does not handle quite so well when it comes to a light fuel load. We've seen that in qualifying. It's a better full tank car than it is an empty car, and that's to do with weight distribution and maybe not quite enough weight over the tires, particularly the front tires. So the car really has an aerodynamic factor that helps, but not just quite good enough.
And you can see how dirty the nose is from the oil being thrown up from the track.
And there you see a fairly good cut-off point there. That was a bit of a hassle for Berger to go through there. The oil, incidentally, is coming from the cars in front. And the oil comes back, and you will see also sometimes on the helmet of the driver the discoloration of his helmet. And that's the oil coming up from the cars in front. If he was following Patrese and it was his that was doing it, then that oil is clearly visible.
With just a few laps to go, it is Gerhard Berger, followed by Michael Schumacher, Jean Alesi, Wendlinger, Katayami, and De Cesare. 7 laps to go. We'll return after this.
While today's car has been totally re-engineered, how well do you think it would work if we hadn't engineered your motor oil to keep up with it? Castrol XLR, the oil engineered for today's cars. Look for Castrol at B's and other retail outlets.
If you don't like the looks of your car, shoot it. With son of a gun protected from STP. If your dash looks dull, shoot it. Your seats are shot, shoot them. Your tires look flat, heck, shoot them too. Don't leave your roof a wreck. Give it some luster. Give your car high caliber protection with son of a gun from STP. Son of a gun, what a difference.
On board with Michael Schumacher, 6 laps to go as we come back live to Montreal. Schumacher is running second to Gerhard Berger. Jackie, he's now 9 seconds back. Alesi has dropped down to 43 seconds back. They're the only 3 cars on the same lap.
I'm trying to listen to the exhaust note of this car because there was a roughness and almost the sound of a miss from it when it passed our commentary position last time. And here's a car that's just blown up. One of the Lamborghini engines has just popped. And here it comes into the pits.
That is Katayami. Katayami in the Lamborghini Venturi with the fire. And what a race. He was in the points in the number 5 position. Disastrous end of the day for the young driver from Japan. He joins Nigel Mansell, Patrese, Senna, and Capelli already on the sidelines. And you can see the frustration. And we look at
That's a hold piston. He's pumped a hole in the engine. The oil and everything that's coming out there is a major engine disaster. That one is not going in for its 5,000-mile service. That one's a big bill. So I don't think that Lamborghini will even be repaired at all. There's the man who at the moment seems to be running on all 12 cylinders of his with cleanness. And then behind him, we've been hearing a little potential of misfire of Schumacher's car, but it could be an exhaust pipe. It could be something quite small.
Gerhard Berger, I was mentioning earlier, under a lot of pressure to get a new contract next year with McLaren. Doing a lot here today. 5 laps to go to silence his critics. Michael Andretti making no secret of the fact that he wants to go to Formula One. Michael Andretti told me Friday afternoon, I want a decision within a month. I will consider only 3 teams, Williams, McLaren, or Ferrari. He's already turned down Ferrari. The betting is that he will, however, replace Capelli at Ferrari as we look at Katayama in the pits. Another hot rumor, Jackie Stewart, and there is some substance to this one. They're talking about Ayrton Senna possibly going to Ferrari to replace Jean Alesi. Now, Al Unser Jr. was here. Michael Andretti says he believes that Al Jr. wants to see Michael take a run at Formula One before he tries. Here is Michael Schumacher from Germany, only his 13th Grand Prix race. 2nd this year in Spain, 4th in South Africa, 3rd in Mexico and Brazil. Did not finish his last 2 races. And you mentioned he was having trouble. He looks to be pulling up a bit. He's now dropped back a few seconds behind the race leader Berger.
I think now with only 4.5 laps to go, I think Michael Schumacher has to satisfy himself with a very worthy 2nd place, and he should be very pleased to do so. It'll only be the 2nd time in his entire short career that he's had a 2nd place finish, and he should be a happy boy to do that. Clearly the reliability that he's got in his engine and his car is of a first-rate effort, and the team have done a great job with only 4 laps to go. I think Schumacher, in fact, has got a great future ahead of him, and this team has. If I were Michael Andretti, incidentally, I would not put it out of my sights to be looking towards a Benetton drive with a Ford engine next year. He can either go to Williams, of course, with a Renault engine, or to McLaren with a Honda engine, or the Ferrari. So it's really a big business for him to decide where to go, but Schumacher is clearly showing that he's capable of being in the points.
Well, it's interesting as we look at Schumacher powered by a Ford engine. Michael Andretti, of course, and Father Mario drive for Paul Newman and Carl Haas, and they have Ford engines in those cars, so he is very familiar with a Ford engine in racing. And it's an interesting story as we're now on board the Benetton Ford. Nelson Piquet won here last year for Benetton. Benetton now running 2nd with 3 laps to go to Gerhard Berger.
Well, here you see a lot of what's going on today. The weather has kept dry, although I have to say it's got even more overcast as we've been looking towards those last final laps. I think we're going to be okay, though.
That is Karl Wendlinger from Austria coming into your picture right here, car number 16. Wendlinger is running in the number 4 position. It's Gerhard Berger, Michael Schumacher, Jean Alesi with 3 laps to go. Wendlinger is 4th. De Cesaris in the points for Ken Tyrrell, as is Eric Comas for Ligier in the number 6 position.
It's interesting that Wendlinger, who we're looking at there, is an Austrian driver, as is Gerhard Berger, another small country that's produced some great drivers. Finland has produced some great drivers. Scotland's produced some great drivers, as has Austria, all very small countries with very small populations. It's quite an amazing thing, but they seem to be able to do it with regularity, because in the past, of course, Niki Lauda and Jochen Rindt were also Austrians. So here has just another extension. There's Eric Comas in the Ligier, the French driver, who was successful in Formula 3000 and has graduated up to Formula 1, the ambition of every driver.
And he's followed by Michele Alboreto in the Footwork Honda, the 10-cylinder Honda. Now that is Comas 6th. Only the top 6 drivers get points. Alboreto, who won here in '85 for Ferrari, is running in the number 7 position. The race leader is Gerhard Berger with 2 laps to go in Montreal. Gerhard Berger and McLaren leading Schumacher and the Benetton Ford by nearly 10 seconds. Running 3rd is Jean Alesi, some 50 seconds back. Now you're on board with Schumacher, who's 2nd. 2 laps to go as they come through the start-finish area. He can't even see Berger. Berger's that far ahead.
And there you see him again in the cockpit shot. It's always very interesting to see the drivers at this stage in the race. Their wrists get tired, their necks get tired, the G-forces that they've got to suffer get up to around 4.5 Gs in cornering forces. It's no easy matter. And in that last shot we saw of Schumacher. You saw that little mirror that we were talking about. Not much to see in it. As you see the Arrows footwork car, and he's continuing to keep the pressure on because he's in 7th position, would like to get, and there's our leader, there's the man who's leading the race right now, and he's done a great job of filling in a great way for the man who dropped out, and there's young Fittipaldi. There's young Christian Fittipaldi, Emerson's nephew. He's running away from the car. He thinks it's on fire. He wants to do it himself. There are experts for that job, Christian, but he feels as if he's got to do it. He saw the flame.
And as Fittipaldi works on the car, down the south side of Ile Notre Dame comes Gerhard Berger from Austria. Berger with 1 lap to go. 1 lap to go. Gerhard Berger, 1 lap to go, and he will win his 7th career race, his first ever in North America. His teammate, Ayrton Senna, out of the race, as are Nigel Mansell, Riccardo Patrese, and Ivan Capelli. We will stay with Gerhard Berger on his 69th and final lap. His lead over Michael Schumacher is now 11 seconds, and Jean Alesi in 3rd is now in the number 27 Ferrari, well over a minute behind Gerhard Berger. Gerhard Berger, whose last win was in Japan in 1991. And we've talked about it all day, trying to hang on to his ride for next year and fight off the likes of Michael Andretti and Al Unser Jr. from the kart circuit. He's got a long way to doing that here today. A smart drive by Berger in his 12-cylindered McLaren Honda. We've had 6 races so far this year. Nigel Mansell won the first 5. 2 weeks ago in Monte Carlo, it was McLaren. There goes Schumacher. But we now have to get back on Berger for the finish of this race. Schumacher is running 2nd. Schumacher is 2nd. And down to the start-finish area comes Gerhard Berger. That is Michael Schumacher, who is 2nd. Berger is going to win Grand Prix Mulsanne. The checkered flag is out. The checkered flag is out for Gerhard Berger. There it is, the checkered flag for Gerhard Berger. And Gerhard Berger has won the 1992 Grand Prix Mulsanne de Canada. There is Michael Schumacher raising the left fist into the air, equaling his best ever finish for Benetton Ford. He was 2nd in Spain. Jean Alesi will be 3rd for Ferrari. Without question, Ferrari's best performance. And this is the Dallara running well back in the field. But quickly, let's go down to Barry Gill and Ron Dennis.
Ron, many congratulations. When we talked to you over the weekend, you said things were getting better, but I don't think you thought they were going to be so good, did you?
Well, it could have been better. It could have been 1-2, but in the circumstances, we're very happy. I think exceedingly happy for Gerhard. It's been a long time coming for him in the team, and it's just what he needs to finish off this season in a positive way.
He really took over the mantle when Senna dropped out, didn't he? I mean, he hasn't let you down an inch of the way.
He's done a great job.
Congratulations, and the season is now opening up again.
It's time to do it. We give it our best shot.
Thank you, Ron, very much indeed.
Good to meet you. Well done. Well, you just saw the Ferrari cross the finish line 3rd. That was Jean Alesi. There is Gerhard Berger with his 7th career victory, his 3rd season with McLaren. Gerhard Berger won in Japan in 1991. His results so far this year, well, he was 5th in South Africa. There's Michael Schumacher pulling up alongside, who finished 2nd. And we're on board with Michael Schumacher to his right, and they're waving to each other. Gerhard Berger, the race winner. So Gerhard Berger, 5th in South Africa, is now trailing Schumacher. They're having a little fun here. Schumacher's passed him as they take their victory lap, but it was Berger, 5th in South Africa, 4th in both Mexico and Spain, did not finish in Brazil, San Marino, or Monaco. As the 1-2 cars come around for the victory lap, and first into the pits is Gerhard Berger.
It's a long time since we've had 2 German-speaking drivers finish 1st and 2nd in a Grand Prix. One from Austria and one from Germany. That's quite a thing for the German-speaking countries of the world, and they, I think, will recognize that commercially. It's very important for Germany to have a presence in Grand Prix motor racing, so I can see good things coming from this. Congratulations to Gerhard Berger and to McLaren. They have shown again that they have the capacity to do this. It was just that at the beginning of the season, it seemed impossible for them to break the spell of the Williams team. But today, neither of those cars were to finish the race, and this one was to get that beloved checkered flag.
Well, it's been a wild afternoon in Montreal. We had a power failure in our mobile control center. We understand viewers across the country as we see Schumacher raise his hand. There is Alesi raising the left fist as he goes across the start-finish area in third place for Ferrari. But it's been a wild day with a power failure here in Montreal. A lot of the big racers dropping out, namely Senna, Mansell, and Patrese. There are the top 6 drivers: an Austrian, a German, a French-Italian, an Austrian, Italian, and Eric Comas from France. So car 27, Jean Alesi, driving the number 27 Ferrari, once driven by the great Gilles Villeneuve, finishing in the number 3 position. There is Gerhard Berger. Lots more to come. We'll continue live from Montreal right after this.
Thursday, such a crazy, lazy